Hey guys, Mr. Riz here to help you out on the third part of the 9.1 notes. So this part is going to be the difficult part. This is what we got to do if we were given an equation of a parabola in standard form, but we want to go find the important information like the vertex or the focus or anything else like that. So what we need to do is to convert the parabola from standard form to vertex form. In order to do that, we got to use an old method we haven't done in a while, knowing as completing the square. Because the vertex form, if you guys remember, is if the parabola opens up or down, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So we need to get that information from there. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is if we have a number at the end, we're going to kind of move that across. We're just going to focus on these two parts, the parts of the problem that have a x. If there's a number in front of that x squared, we're going to divide that out. So you can see if we factor out this 2, the 2x squared just becomes x squared, and the 12x just becomes 6. Okay, next what we need to do is to complete the score. We need to find the piece that goes in that box. And that box is, that middle number is always going to be b divided by 2 squared. So what we need to do in both of these boxes here, we got to figure out this blank. And that's going to be, well, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Now we can't just go through and just add 9 to this side and have nothing else be replaced over here. We also have to go through and subtract a 9 here. And the one thing we have to actually watch out for is because there's a 2 multiplied on the outside, we actually have to subtract 2 times 9. So that is going to be the number that goes in the box. Now, what ends up happening here, if you remember from complete the square, if we have, and what happens end up, this is like x squared minus b x plus blank. This will end up going to x minus b over 2 squared if we use the right blank. And so that's why this part here simplifies, if you remember, down to just x minus 3 squared. And then over here, we can do the math. 6 minus 2 times 9 is 12. Okay, so we can look at that problem there, and we can figure out that a is the number on the outside, so that's 2. H is the number on the inside, and so is x minus h, so that's 3. And our k is the number on the outside, so that's negative 12. So the vertex for this problem here would be at 3, negative 12. The axis of symmetry problem, we might have to go back and look at the start of our notes here if you don't know what that is. And that's why we have this here. This front page is going to be very useful for you. The axis of symmetry when it's up and down is x equals h. See if I can line this back up perfectly. Too much. That's good enough. So this problem is going to be x equals h is 3, and the parabola opens up. Okay, we can find some more information too about this graph. I'm going to have to kind of clear this off a little bit. We can find the
teachers, please go ahead and take attendance. Thank you.
Focus by using the point h plus k plus 1 over 4a. So this would be h is 3, and then k is negative 12, plus 1 over 4 times a is 2. And so this point would be at the point 3, comma, and then let's see, this would be 12 plus negative 12 plus 1 over 8. And if you want to use the decimal, that's fine. That's negative 11.875. The directrix here is y equals k, which is negative 12, minus 1 over 4 times a, which is 2. So this would be y equals, that'd be negative 12 plus 1.25. And the length of the lattice rectum, which is the distance between the focus and the curve points, that would be 1 over a, 1 over 2, so that would be 1/2. And the one thing about this is we can always just kind of double check that we did the math right. And this is why I want to show you guys what we eventually do is we'll use Desmos to kind of double check that we did these all right. So let's start this problem on our own. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to split screen this as much as I can. Hopefully you guys can have, I think that's about as large as I can make it here. but at the same time, we're going to have Desmos open up to help us out. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to put this problem on here. We got y plus 2x squared plus 32 equals negative 16x minus 1. Get a graph, and we can actually kind of see, we can kind of cheat, and we can use Desmos to get the vertex for us. But let's do the math here. Let's figure out where this problem or what this problem is. So one thing we need to know is this graph does open up or down. So it's going to be the y equals, and which makes sense too, because y is the single variable by itself. So let's get y by itself. We got y, we're going to minus the 2x squared over. We're going to minus the 32 over, and we also have the negative 16x over there already. So minus the 32, that becomes minus 33. Okay, so the first step we do, and this is why it's difficult, we're spending a lot of time on this, is we need to isolate this part here. We're going to isolate that, and we're going to factor out the negative 2. Oops, actually, we need a little bit more room than that. We're going to wipe our blank here. Okay, so what we need to do here is if we divide by negative 2, this becomes x squared. This becomes a plus 8x, and then we're going to put a plus blank. Now, what we can't do is we have to remember too, is if we have this blank here, we have to do the opposite of this blank here. So if we are technically having a negative 2 times this blank, we're going to have to add a positive 2 times that same blank. So let's figure out what that blank is to make this equation work out nice. We take this middle number divided by 2 and then square it. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So we're going to put that here and here. All right, now let's break this down a little bit more. So this becomes y equals negative 2 times. All right, over here, let's just take care of this part here. We got negative 3 plus 2 times 16. All right. Actually, no, it's not negative 3. It is negative 33, right? Oh, I forgot that. I have the 33 here, and I just wrote down 3. Okay. So we got negative 33 plus 2 times 16. So that's negative 3 plus 32. That's just negative 1. Which makes sense because remember vertex. Okay. And then what's going on over here? This is going to be x. Symbol stays the same in the middle, and all we got to do is either take the middle number, cut it in half, or take the square root of that number. 8 cut in half is 4. Okay, so there is our equation. Y equals negative 2 times x plus 4 squared minus 1. Now, if we ever want to just double check that we did that part right, and I would highly recommend doing that here, is we have our equation on Desmos in standard form, the way it was given to us. If we type in our equation in vertex form on a separate line, and if we did everything correct, it will match up perfectly with the other one. So these are the exact same equations because they line up right on top of each other. Okay, so that's good news. We did that math right. Let's go through now and find our variables or our special features. A is negative 2. K is negative 4 because remember it's x minus h, and then k is negative 1. All right, so our vertex we saw on Desmos is at negative 4, negative 1. The axis of symmetry, you know, these are things we can double check here. You know, if I type in the point negative 4, negative 1, we can see, yeah, that's right on the point. That's the vertex there. The axis of symmetry is up or down, so that's x equals h, which is negative 4. Which you can see on Desmos splits it right in half. That's what the axis of symmetry does. And the parabola opens down. Because our A is negative, that goes down. And we can see that visually on the graph. All right, well, the focus is at the point negative 4, and then K, which K is negative 1, plus 1 over 4 times A. A is negative 2. So what is that? Okay, so maybe just off to the side here, we know what's negative 1 plus 1 divided by 4 times negative 2. All right, that's negative 1.25. So our focus is at the point -4, comma, -1.125. Or I believe as a fraction that's -5 or -9/8. But let's see, if I just type that as a point, -4, comma, -1.125, you can see if we zoom in, yeah, that's the focus point. That'd be right there. The directrix is at the point, just like the focus, y equals k, which is -1, minus 1/4 times -2. So if we want to go through, we can kind of cheat here. We can take our equation here and just change it to a minus. All right, so that's -0.875. So y equals -0.875, which is 7/8. And once again, on Desmos. Desmos is going to be the tool that we can use to kind of help us out. Y equals -0.875. And that works there. The length of the lattice rectum. Lattice rectum is 1/a, which a is -2. It is the absolute value of that. So the absolute value of -1/2 is a +1/2, which that's the distance from the focus here is 1/2 of the unit. Okay, so that's a whole problem. We're just going to keep on going through more problems, making sure we can get every part of those. So Desmos is going to be a tool to help us out. Desmos will be the one thing that you guys are allowed to use on the test. Okay, here we go. Next. All right, let's just even type that into Desmos here right at the beginning. We got 0 equals -y plus 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. All right, okay, it's up here. We know it opens up or down, so there we go. Let's try to get the equation. So what we have to do with the equation is we got to get the y over here, get the y by itself, and we got 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. All right, so let's work on that x part. We got a 2 that we have to factor out. And when we do that, 2x squared just goes to x squared. And if we take away the 2 from the -4x, that becomes -2x. We have our blank. And then plus 6. And then we need to get rid of the blank. We got to do the opposite here. If we have 2 times this blank, we're going to have -2 times that same blank. That's the only way we can add a number to something is if we subtract it as well, because they cancel each other out. All right, so what goes in this blank? It's going to be this middle number cut in half squared. 2 cut in half is -1. -1 squared is +1. So that's the number that goes in the blank. So we'd get y equals 2 times. All right, we take the x, goes down to x squared. The symbol stays the same. And then we just take the middle number cut in half. So this becomes x minus 1 squared. And then over here, we just got to figure out what's 6 minus 2 times 1. 6 minus 2 is 4. All right, so let's see if we did this correctly by graphing that equation that we just figured out. Y equals 2 times x minus 1 squared plus 4. There we go. It lines up perfectly on there. Okay, so next thing we want to do, it asks us for the vertex, the focus, and the directrix. So the vertex is at the point HK. H is 1, K is 4. And if we actually point here, that's there on the graph. All right, the focus, if we remember, is at the point H, and then K plus 1/4A. So let's see, that'd be H is 1, then K is 4 plus 1/4 times A is 2. So this is 4 plus 1/8. That would be 4.125. And we just want to double check that if we type in 1, 4.125, you can see, yep, we get a nice focus point in the middle of that parabola there. And the directrix is just like this, except for it's minus in the middle. It's the opposite. So the directrix would be 4 minus 1/8. And the directrix would be, let's see, that'd be y equals 4 minus 1, that'd be 3.875. And we can double check that here on Desmos here, just to go through. Y equals 3.875. There we go. Okay, so let's keep this going. We're going to keep doing more practice until we get the hang of this. All right, feel free to pause the video at any time to go through and see if you did this correctly. Okay, so let's go through this here. What do we have as this problem? I'm going to put it straight in Desmos. 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus 4y plus 5. This graph opens down, so we know it's going to be a y equals problem. So let's move the y over to the other side and see what happens. Well, we get 4y equals x squared plus 6x plus 5. Okay, so we have a problem here. We actually have a number in front of the y, meaning we need to divide everything by 4. This is not going to be fun, but we'll deal with it. So we get y equals, this becomes a 1/4 x squared plus, now we can simplify this if we want, or you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this as 6/4 x and then plus 5/4. Now the reason why we didn't simplify it is because the next thing that we need to do is we need to factor out that 1/4. So we take away the 1/4 from the x squared plus, all right, this, if we factor out 1/4 from 6/4, that just becomes 6. We have our blank, and we still have our plus 5/4. Now this blank here, we can't put a blank here unless we put an opposite blank next to it. So instead of adding the 1/4 times the blank, we're going to subtract the 1/4 times the blank. All right, let's figure out what goes in the blank. It's going to be this middle number cut in half squared. 6 cut in half is 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, so we would get y equals, we got 1/4. All right, we got x. That middle number stays the same, and the middle symbol stays the same. Middle number we cut in half is 3. So we got 1/4 of x plus 3 squared. And then over here, what's this come out to be? This would be, let's see, that'd be 5/4 minus 9/4. So that'd be -4/4. -4 divided by 4 is -1. So this turns out to be, you can double check that on a calculator. All this just turns out to be -1. So let's see if we did that right. If we type in our equation into the calculator. Actually, we did something wrong here. Oh, I know what we did wrong. Oh, this is going to change quite a bit, I bet. Oh, actually, probably not too much. Let's see. I made a mistake here. When I moved that y over, that should have been a -4. And then we would divide everything by -4, which makes this a -1/4, makes that a -6/4. That makes a -5/4. We'd factor out the negative, which would make these positive if we factor out a negative. But that would be a -5/4, and we'd have to do the opposite, which would become plus. So basically, all we do with our answer here is we have a -1/4, and that should be a +1. That one little mistake at the beginning carries all the way through, but isn't too bad to change this. All right, so we get y equals -1/4 times x plus 3 in parentheses squared plus 1. All right, it lines up perfectly. We did that good. All right, what's the vertex? Well, we can click on Desmos if we have that, or we can use that the vertex formula is at the point HK, which would be at the point H is -3. Remember, so it's the opposite in the parentheses, and then K is 1. All right, the focus here. The focus is at the point K plus 1/4A. So this would be K plus 1/4, and A is -1/4. Oh, and K, I forgot to put down K. Oh, no, it is. K is 1. So what's 1? And then over here, 1/4 times -1/4. So this would be 1/4 times -1/4 would be -1. So what's 1 plus 1 divided by 1? That would be 0. So the focus is at the point H, which is -3, 0. And the directrix is the same thing. It's the equation y equals k minus 1 over 4a. So it's going to be the same thing here, except for it's going to be minus 1 over -1. So what's 1 plus 1? That would be 2. And we can kind of double check that here. If we go through and just graph those things. All right, if we graph the focus is at -3, 0. You can see, yep, that's bam, right in the middle with the vertex. Parabola wraps around that. And y equals 2 is the directrix. That's what the opposite of that. Okay, so what you guys have for homework are 2 CYUs to do, since this is an important section. And I split up to 2 so that way you don't get discouraged if you do terrible on one, and then you need help on the other. So let's go through first, and I'm going to help you with the first one. So hopefully the first one, you guys will be all right with it. You'll have some confidence, and that will give you some help on the next ones. You know what? I'm on the wrong class. So let me go through algebra 2 here. So we got to complete the square 1 and complete the square 2. So hopefully you did part 1 and part 2. Okay, so each one of these problems you guys can see is actually kind of broken up into 2 parts. One part is they give you an equation. They want you to figure out the A, the H, and the K, and then go through and name, okay, where's the vertex at? Where is the directrix or focus, and where's the directrix? So question 1 and 2 work together. Question 3 and 4 work together as well. So I'm going to help you guys with the tough part, getting the equations. You guys should be all right after that if you're watching these videos to get the focus and the directrix. So let's go through, get the equations here. All right, so I'm going to just type that equation. We got 0 equals -y plus x squared minus 6x plus 2. Okay, so we got to find the equation that matches that. First thing we would do here is we move the y over. The good thing this is negative, so that comes a positive y over here. And then we got x squared minus 6x plus 2. Okay, so technically there's a number in front of the x squared and it's 1. Which actually makes it easy because if we factor out a 1, it stays x squared and that stays a minus 6x. We have our blank here, and then we have plus or 2 blank. Now, if we have a blank that we're adding times 1, we need to subtract the 1 times the blank. All right, let's figure out what this blank is. The blank is going to be the middle number, which is -6. Cut in half is -3 squared. -3 squared is 9. So that's what's going to go in here. So we get y equals 1 times x. The symbol in the middle stays the same. And then we take the middle number, cut in half, 3 squared. And then over here, we got to figure out, okay, what's our k number? It's going to be 2 minus 1 times 9. 2 minus 9 is -7. And so there should be our equation. And we can double check that here. What's y equals 1 times x minus 3 squared minus 7. Boom, that lines up perfectly. Okay, so you put a 1 in for here, a -3 in for here, and a plus a -7 for that one. Okay, using that information, hopefully you guys can find the vertex and the directrix. Use the formula chart at the start of the beginning. All right, this one here, we have some decimals. Okay, so don't freak out when we see decimals. We can handle it and we'll be all right. Okay, so this one here, we got 0 equals -x plus 0.1 y squared plus 1.2 y plus 5.6. Okay, this one opens left or right. So we definitely have a curveball in this last one. Hopefully you guys are watching this video to get help on it. It's really not too bad. It's going to be the same type of work here. We just need to go through and take our time with it. So this one, we need to get the x by itself since it opens to the right. And we'll work on getting the y. So we would get the x by itself. We get x equals 0.1 y squared plus 1.2y plus 5.6. The next thing we do is we break down, or we focus on the part that has y's. We factor out the number in front of the y squared, which is 0.1. So if we divide 0.1 by 0.1, it's just 1y squared. Next, if we divide 1.2 by 0.1, if you don't know what it is, use the calculator right now and let's figure out what it is. 1.2 divided by 0.1 is 12. And then plus blank. Then we still have our 5.6 here. And then we got to do the opposite of this here. If we have a 0.1 times the blank, we need to have a minus 0.1 times that same blank in order for our work to be equal. All right, let's figure what number goes in the blank. The number that goes in the blank is 12 divided by 2, which is 6. 6 squared is 36. Okay, so we need to put a 36 there and a 36 there. So we get x equals, we got 0.1. All right, and we'd get a y when we take the square root of y squared. The plus sign stays in the middle. 12 divided by 2 is 6 squared. Okay, so that's this part here. And then our k is whatever, 5.6 minus 0.1 times 3.6. So this is 5.6 minus 3.6. 5.6 minus 3.6 is just 2. And there we go. I think that's the answer, and we can double check that by typing that equation in on Desmos. X equals 0.1 times y plus 6 squared plus 2. All right, so we got a 0.1 in the blank here. Now this is y minus, so if we have a plus 6, it's going to have to be a negative 6. And then our plus 2, which is okay, 2. Okay, when it comes to finding the focus and the Directrix here, I'm going to clear this off here. The vertex, the focus, and the Directrix do change a little bit based off of our direction. So everything we do here is our equation is going to be the vertex is still going to be at hk. Just keep in mind when it's x equals, our h is the outside number, the k is on the inside number. So if you just saw that and said, okay, this has to be negative 6, 2, because I'm used to the vertex being at the middle number here and then the number at the end, that's good for the up and down, but you can see that point is nowhere near where it should be. It's actually the other part. It's at 2, negative 6. There's the vertex. All right, then that will help you figure out the focus and the Directrix. You can see the focus should be over here. The Directrix should be over here. Okay, hopefully you guys do all right with this one, and then you guys do okay on the other ones. If you have any questions, you know, you reach out, you ask for help, but good luck on this. This is the tough part of the section. But it's an important part because later on when we get to circles and ellipses, we're going to do this multiple times. You guys have a great day. I will see you later.